All right, guys, the SmartCarb saga continues. So, I did make a bunch of other videos on the trail yesterday in this mega heat in Florida here, testing this thing with my final push to see if I could get this to work. Okay, I SmartCarb, in my opinion, is dumb. How do I say that? And I'm going to take full responsibility in some ways. It's only as smart as the user. And yes, I will say that this one is dumb. Did you get that message there? So you get to learn from my dumbness. Okay, that being said, I'm taking responsibility for what happened to this situation, but you should listen to everything I'm saying real quickly. It'll be a little long-winded because here's the summary. I finally think I figured it all out. Okay. This cross trainer has 120 hours on it. I bought it virtually new. It had 7 hours on it. Okay, I'm definitely towards the end of the life. I said I rode it gently, and so maybe I shouldn't have worn it out that fast. Maybe that's not 100% true. I definitely whooped it all over the country. I whooped it from, New York to Tennessee, Georgia, Hatfield McCoys, Albuquerque, Moab, Texas, Alabama. So it's taking heavy sand in Florida. So it's definitely taking more of a beating than maybe I probably led on to. And I should have probably gone for the rebuild at 100 hours maybe. But, hindsight's 2020. And same with the SmartCarb. Hindsight's 2020. So the moral of the story is, in my opinion, which means nothing, but, hopefully this will help anybody thinking about this. The SmartCarb is not worth it anymore. And this was an experiment for me. I wasn't convinced it was worth it. If you go online, back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to go with in the camp that I should have just got a JD Jet Kit and kept it simple. Keeping it simple, KISS, is always a good policy. And I'm a big fan of that. However, I was lured into the romance of a carburetor that could deal with altitudes because of upcoming high altitude trips that I'm going to have and so forth. I was hoping to kind of get a TBI-like bike and not buy another bike, even though I was going to buy one anyway because I like trying different bikes, and now I'm into the Husky TE300 mood, and I'm definitely going to get one of those eventually here. So that being said, here's what you need to know. I would just save your money and buy a JD Jet Kit because, I bitch about, pulling the carb apart and putting jets in, on the trail or a trailhead in Colorado or something like that and praying that you get it right. Well, the JD Jet Kits, I don't have 100% experience with them, but one of my close riding buddies does. They got a pretty good chart. You can dial it pretty well. I probably don't have to rejet maybe as much as I was thinking because I've already run Albuquerque up to 5,000, maybe a little more. And yeah, it definitely loses horsepower. But I think, for the money you're going to spend on a JD kit, what are they, $75, maybe $100 to your door? I don't know. They're pretty cheap. So call it under $100. You can still buy a ticket to Europe or to Jamaica for the leftover money. You could still buy a brand new top of the line Arai helmet. You could still buy the best enduro boots on the market. You could still buy a lot of stuff with the money you have left over. Now, and here's the kicker, is that the SmartCarb is not that smart. It's not foolproof. In my case, here's where I'm going to knock SmartCarb. The support stinks. They really aren't interested in anything other than the sale, and they need you to know everything about it beforehand, and you're on your own. So don't expect to get any support from them. In my opinion, the metering rod was wrong for me in this case. It was way too lean. So SmartCarb in this case, in my opinion, was the final nail in the coffin for this cross trainer. I think had I kind of learned what I just realized in the last 24 hours sleeping on it, I think I could have probably extended the life of this cross trainer with my original OEM carb and a couple other pieces of information that I'm going to throw in here as what I think might have been happening to me and may be happening to you. Okay, so the SmartCarb's metering rod was too lean. It should have been shipped with a richer one because it's always better to default to richer than lean. Lean is very destructive on a motor, as you know. I ran it really hard at high end, past couple times with this carb, with too lean a metering rod. I definitely was lean because if you looked at my plug, I did another video and I show you the picture of the brand new plug. She was white, just like a lean plug is, and you could feel the lack of power. So I definitely overheated it, running hard lean, and I definitely had the tip of the plug was white, so I was lean, and I definitely started to expand that piston and start creating pre-detonation and maybe, additional piston slap because my bike's a little worn, and it definitely started to come apart yesterday. So I limped it back to the truck in the high heat of Florida, barely made it, I believe. I feel like not much longer and she probably will implode. But here's a couple other things that I think were going on. I told you that sporadically in the past, if you saw my other videos, that I was getting this kind of slappy, nasty pinginess once in a blue moon on this bike. Even when it had lower hours, all of a sudden, I'd get this shitty running. And I thought the head pipe was loose and I needed to replace the, O-rings on that. And then I thought I had an air leak. And then I thought I had bad fuel. And then I thought, oh, maybe the injection system in the oil isn't working. All those little things that betas are known for or whatever. And so, my main thought was that I needed better octane, and my other main thought was that my carb was a little plugged up from it sitting for 5 weeks and not running it, and or got a tiny bit of debris in it and was causing it to run leaner, blah, blah, blah. So here's what I believe now and what I'm going to caution you on. I believe that sporadicness was definitely extreme, like use and overheating. Now, where it occurred last was in Tennessee at the TKO trails, where it's very extreme. It was very humid that 3 days. I ran perfectly for 2.5 days, and then it started to do that clucky thing, sounded nasty. I believe what happened is it had been raining the day before, the morning. It was very humid, very hot. I was working very difficult trails, barely moving from 0 to 3, 4, 5 miles an hour at the most, and struggling, fighting, climbing, turning the bike on and off a lot. I was probably superheating the cylinder and the piston because working it so hard, no real airflow, stagnant air. I got a cooling fan and all that stuff and it works, but really steep inclines. And then I was shutting the bike off to take a breather. Theoretically, I was kind of giving the bike a breather, and that was a mistake. Now, in hindsight, I'm going to let the bike idle more, continue to do its cooling, let the cooling fan kick on, let it try to cool itself down, and I'm definitely going to pay more attention to fuel. I definitely got on the fuel kick for a while, trying to really be careful with fuel. And, as your bike runs better, you're running in cooler temperatures. Like my last major trip, I did do my last major trip was in April, and that was Moab, much cooler temperatures at the time. So I wasn't, and I was moving pretty good, so there was no issues. But that being said, here's what I think you got to pay attention to fuel-wise. I think what might be occurring is I am getting crap octane ultimately for a couple of reasons. Leaving it in my plastic gas tank in my van, maybe, for a week or two or a couple weeks, and using that older fuel. I should dump that stuff off into my Tenere, which I do often because she's not fussy. And, your 4-stroke injected bikes aren't really that fussy. That being said, I think, I do try to get, alcohol-free fuel, which I think is usually around 90 octane. That works. It helps not gum up your carb and all that good stuff, which I love, but that's not that common. And a lot of times that fuel, sits a lot because it doesn't get used at certain gas stations. So you could be getting lower octanes than you really think you're getting. The other little trick that I remember is that everybody's using 87. So you go to the gas station, you want to get a gallon or a half a gallon or whatever, fill the bike up real quick or put a couple gallons in your jug, and you hit from 87. I've always put premium in all my bikes. It doesn't matter what bike it is. I always put premium in there. The best that's at the pump at the time. So whatever is it, 91, 92, 93. But remember, very few people use premium, and they And when you go to grab it, there is that leftover fuel from the 87 still in the hose, still in the pump that really hasn't cleared itself out. We may be dumping that 87 into our needed half gallon up here or our needed gallon in our jug, and we're really getting pretty much 90% 87 and a touch of 91 or 92 or 93. So we're really averaging down and maybe only getting 89 octane at best, maybe just 88, who knows. So I believe that I started a little practice because I was having so many fuel issues in the past and getting that pinginess. I did do octane boost. That seemed to work, and then it felt like it didn't work. And then I was starting to dump I was selecting premium. I was firing a gallon or two into my Sprinter van, which is gas. And then I was filling up the bike or the jug so that I would hopefully ensure that I'd be getting better octanes. I think that's what I got to stick to. And I got to get more strict with my fuel. I got to make sure it's fresher. I got to get high octane. I got to clear the pump out and make sure that I'm getting fresh octane or premium. Then I have to probably maintain a quality octane boost in the van for any time I have a little bit older fuel, and or dump it into my 4-strokes and not even burn it. So that's what I'm going to do in the future. The other thing I might do is I might add a hair of oil to my fuel, despite the fact that I have the oil injection system on, just to kind of ensure I have a tiny bit more lubrication, and maybe heat avoidance. So those are the things that I think kind of were causing my sporadic clunkiness. And as you know, what happens if you are familiar with pre-detonation, or almost like gasoline engines acting like a diesel, means that the the piston is coming up in the cylinder. And what's happening is it's gotten so hot, so pissed off from riding slow and not getting cooling, that it is actually the fuel and the air compressed is exploding, I'm going to say exploding before the spark plug even is triggered. Because of the pressure and the heat, she's just self-combusting. She's pre-detonating. So you're basically, exploding at a bad time. Piston's still on its way up. The explosion occurs. You have a head-on collision between the explosion and the piston. You get nasty noises. You cause the engine a ton of stress. All the bearings, everything's getting stressed. And that's what's starting to happen. And it's kind of acting like a diesel in that diesels can run without a spark plug or a glow plug or any electrical at all, because they're just compressing fuel so hard with such high temperatures it explodes on its own. So that's what's going on when I get that nastiness, and that's just not good. You don't want that to occur for very long. You got to figure out why it's occurring and get rid of it, because it's very destructive. It starts to just tear everything apart. So that's what was happening a lot yesterday. Things were getting very hot, very stressed, pre-detonating, and everything was crashing together and causing ugly noises and probably ripping things apart in there. So that's what we have to think about. So this carb, I'm not interested anymore for its price. It's not worth it to me. I'm going with a JD Jet Kit, going back to OEM. So this will be at a great price on eBay for you guys who want to spend the time and think this is worth it for you. That's great. So I do believe it's still a good tool for the person who wants to fiddle with it. But knowing that it was sent to me lean with a metering rod that wasn't good for me and that was leaning on the dangerous side, I'm not interested in working with this company or this product anymore. And I'm going to keep it simple, and I'll probably rebuild this. I'm rebuilding it. I already ordered the whole thing to rebuild it. I ordered actually a thermostat switch that's going to trigger the fan to come on a little earlier so that I can actually try to maintain cooler temperatures in the war zones better. And I'm going to pay attention to fuel a lot more. I'm going to replace my entire radiator fluid with new fluid. I'm not going to get fancy on fluid because some fluids are full of crap. What happens is, apparently, if you read into it, ice and fluids like that, they really don't let your engine temperature necessarily or engine heat dissipate more. They actually kind of hide it, and they'll allow your temperature gauge to read lower, but not really pull more heat from your motor. But they are designed so they don't boil over and leave your radiator. So it's better to have a fluid in there that's still circulating, but maybe not absorbing as much heat than to obviously blow off. However, it's even better to have a good quality antifreeze that absorbs more heat. It gets rid of the heat out of the motor and not boil over. So I'm going to stick to traditional, simple antifreezes that Beta recommends, but I'm going to put in some new stuff. I'm going to check all of my connections on my oil injection because, these 22s or the 22, these things, there are some word out there that the connections can go bad. So I haven't really checked mine in a while. I know I was oiling though, because my oil light went off. My tank was way down, it did the right thing. It was down on oil, and I can see the micro bubbles moving through the line every now and then. So I know I was oiling. Who knows if I was oiling correctly? I believe I was, but that's where I'm at. Doing a total rebuild. Parts are on the way. Dumping this carb. You'll see it on eBay. Going back to OEM, getting a nice cheap JD jet kit with a nice little chart. And if I need to rejet in Colorado, I will. And that's the direction I'm going. So that being said, the carburetor, SmartCarb, is only as smart as its user. Get to know what you need to know if you decide to go this route. It's not quite as simple as I was hoping it would be, or as bulletproof. And you are going to be on your own. What I'm dreaming about is the day they make an actual electronic fuel injection kit that's plug and play. I mean, think about it. You had a little booty that was an adapter with a couple of little injectors, maybe one, maybe two, that, you plug in a couple of wires and you got the perfect fuel mix, and you have an app on your phone that you can adjust, and it's custom built for every single bike. You pick the Beta 300 Xtrainer and bang, you have a setup on your phone that would do that. That's what I dream about. Why they haven't built that, I don't know. It seems like the technology's there and it would be so easy and so inexpensive with today's technology and manufacturing. Anyway, that's another dream. But, the best bike ever is an electric bike. None of this crap exists. Anyway, I hope you guys I hope this helps you guys. And again, I appreciate any likes and subscribes. And if you have any questions, reach out, and best of luck to you guys in your search to solve any of the issues that I've got. Hopefully that helped you. Take care.